How to co-opt Jesus for your political agenda. Welcome to Truth Duel Official. In this video, you'll learn about how race and religion get tangled together in a political co-opted mess. You'll want to stick around till the end of this video to learn if Jesus was actually white. The answer will amuse you. But first, I am your host, Misinformation. If you like this channel, make sure to subscribe to receive more great religious history, misinformation analysis, and other sentiments and ramblings that please and amuse us. And become a truth dueler, because only you can slay misinformation at its source. Get our app on truthduel.com. Famous people have a hard time keeping their noses out of politics. Actor Arnold Schwarzenegger became governor of California. Reality TV star Donald Trump became president of the United States. And the most famous man in the world, Jesus Christ, became a Democrat or a Republican. It's complicated.
We're white from Bell. We're going to shame women all day, all night. Come on down.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women.
Come on.
And blessed is the
Let's
fruit
hear
of
it.
thy womb, Jesus.
A little bit louder.
Holy Mary,
I don't
Mother
think
of
God can hear
pray
you.
for us sinners, now and at the hour of
I
our
don't
death.
think he can
Amen.
hear you.
So let's dive into the different ways people have used Jesus for their own political agendas. It's no surprise that people have co-opted Jesus for political agendas. As the most famous man in the world, Jesus is bound to make appearances on Fox News or CNN, or your tinfoil hat-wearing neighbor's podcast that he promises is going to be the next Joe Rogan experience. However, since Jesus is so popular, that means many different agendas want him as their spokesperson. When you look at the end results, Jesus has been spread so thin that Republican Jesus is a completely different person from Democrat Jesus. A study from Stanford University measured this very concept, examining the different biblical passages and concepts that liberal and conservative people pointed to when describing who Jesus is to them. Liberals tended to highlight passages that display Jesus' charity towards the poor and his gentle behavior with those typically excluded from society, such as immigrants and sex workers. Conservatives focused on parts of the Bible that discussed social issues, such as gay marriage and abortion, imagining their Jesus as holding stronger family values against these topics. Either way, when the researchers asked both groups of people if their descriptions were accurate, liberals and conservatives said that the truth about Jesus was probably somewhere in the middle, and he did not follow their political agendas uniformly. Sounds about right, considering the Son of God lived approximately 2,000 years before the modern Democrat and Republican parties became what they are now. Jesus may have been able to perform miracles, but predicting the American political shit show was not one of them. So much shit.
And still others ruined perfectly good pairs of pants. A nation mourns and tries to rebuild, but the big question that remains is, how did this happen?
One classic part of the American political and religious culture is white Jesus. But where did white Jesus come from? He came from an American artist named Warner E. Sallman. The New York Times even rewarded him with the title of Best Known Artist of the 20th Century. But you've probably never heard of him. That's okay, but have you seen this famous painting he did? For many people, this is the classic painting of white Jesus. Sallman wanted to use his art to spread the gospel, and he mainly focused on a youth audience. To engage them, Sallman depicted Jesus in the same style as high school yearbook photos of the time. I wonder what Jesus' senior quote would be. Blessed are the cheesemakers.
I think it was blessed are the cheesemakers.
What's so special about the cheesemakers?
Well, obviously, it's not meant to be taken literally. It refers to any manufacturers of dairy products.
Cheese. Salzman's tactic worked. and this image of white Jesus circulated America as the default depiction of Jesus. But did Jesus actually have those flowing blonde locks? No. The answer is no. Then what did Jesus really look like? Jesus was born in a region called the Levant. It's nestled between Turkey and Egypt, and it borders the Mediterranean Sea. People in this region tend to experience mild winters and sunny summers, since they sit firmly above the equator. Why am I bringing up all this stuff about the equator? Because human skin color doesn't just magically happen like some sort of custom character generator. Across groups of people, melanin levels are generally a response to the severity of the sun. So, Truth Duel viewers, let's put on our big kid thinking caps and try to figure out what Jesus, a man born in the Middle East, might look like. If you guessed, like literally every other Middle Eastern person, you'd be correct. Of course, I'm vastly simplifying the diversity that can be found in the Middle East, so let's ignore the broader region and focus on Jesus' hometown specifically. Now, if you've ever turned on a radio during Christmas time, then you're probably aware that Jesus was born in Bethlehem. The city of Bethlehem has changed ownership many times, but it currently resides under the authority of the Palestinian Authority for Geopolitical Nerds. But that's another story. At the time of Jesus' birth, Bethlehem was in a state called Judea, which was a vassal of the Roman Empire. Culturally, Jesus was Jewish, which made him and other Jewish people an oppressed group under Roman law. Forensic anthropologist Richard Neave analyzed the bones left behind by people who lived at the same time and placed that Jesus spent most of his life. He used this data to recreate the portrait of a man who would have been the average Joe, or Joseph to be precise, for the region and time. Neave did this to help modern people imagine what Jesus could have possibly looked like. The results aren't some stunning Nordic model.
Thanks to new forensic research, we're getting a more historically accurate version of what Jesus may have looked like.
Think about Jewish people in Iraq today, and this is how we should imagine Jesus. And at the time, he would have had probably a short beard and short hair. He would have been a darker complected man, so very different from many of the light-skinned portrayals that you would find in Christian churches today.
But a pretty normal-looking guy. But misinformation, you say. Sometimes cultures represent Jesus in ways that appeal to the people most commonly living in that region, even if those people aren't Jewish or Middle Eastern. Clearly, you forgot to take your big kid thinking cap off, because that was a very intelligent thing to say, viewer. It's true. Different cultures represent Jesus in ways that reflect the majority ethnicity of a location. Sallman depicted Jesus as an Anglo-Saxon hunk because that's what reflected the dominant American ethnicity in the early 20th century. Similarly, African Americans have taken great strength from applying Jesus' struggles to their own. When enslavers forced Christianity onto enslaved Africans, the Africans were told that Jesus represented their servitude as well as the authority colonizers held over them. However, those enslaved people viewed Jesus in a different light. They saw his authority as one that transcended the wishes of the colonizers, a divine ideal to strive for greater than pleasing their mortal masters. They also saw Jesus as an oppressed person himself, because he was who would identify with their struggle and would give them strength through the toil. Because of this, modern black churches sometimes depict Jesus as a black man, since they're drawing on their history as enslaved people. This piece by Vincent Barzoni shows Jesus with his hands bound. In fact, churches around the world have taken the liberty of removing Jesus from his Mediterranean roots so that his face reflects the faces of the people looking up at him. A Korean artist named King Ki-chung painted famous scenes from Jesus' life, such as the Last Supper or his crucifixion, but he painted the figures in traditional Korean clothing. The art was a way for him to connect suffering during the Korean War with the suffering Christ experienced. Jesus can't even escape the race-bending treatment in those islands down under. Sophia Minson portrayed Jesus with the traditional Maori tattoos and jewelry to give Jesus a face Maori people could see themselves in. How do you think Jesus should be portrayed? Is it better to depict his ethnicity accurately, or should he reflect the culture he's in? Leave your opinions in the comments below to please and amuse us. So no matter what skin color you paint Jesus as, if you give him piercing blue eyes or cultural clothing, just remember, Jesus probably looked like a pretty average guy. Wait. This just in. Our Truth Duel investigative reporters suddenly found evidence in the Bible that proves Jesus' true ethnicity. The Bible often refers to Jesus as the Lamb of God. And what color are lambs? That's right, Jesus was white. Misinformation wishes you well and reminds you to conveniently forget that black sheep exist. P.S. If Jesus could be black, then could the Pope be a woman? Why Pope Joan is cooler than your girl might give you the answer. Until next time, make sure to like our video, subscribe to our channel, and become a truth dueler, or Jesus will not be pleased and amused with you.